my name is Dr. Janis Edralin, and I am a daughter of a United States military veteran, a sister, a cousin, an aunt, and so I'm definitely a big supporter of veterans, veteran spouses, veteran friends, and of course elected officials who support our veterans. So I am a psychologist. Some brief history about me. Sometimes I don't know where to start because I think about my father. I had to send him a text message and I said, "Dad, I'll be right back. I'm at an event." You know how military fathers can be. So I am a doctor. I am a psychologist. When I first started my journey, obviously my parents lived abroad. I was a military brat. I think that's a common word, military brat or military daughter. So I traveled abroad a lot, and what brought me to where I am now is when I was an undergraduate, my first work was recognized because I studied the field of psychology in the theoretical construct of forensics. I studied and I learned how to interview individuals, 2 master's degrees, and a PhD later. I find myself having a forte in corporate risk management. In a nutshell, corporate risk management is when you protect the business, the small business. You also protect a corporation. You protect the employees and vice versa. So the difference between, the way that it works out is I'm a corporate life coach. So corporate life coach means that, let's say, if somebody called me, they had a question, I answered it. That tends to be what a corporate life coach does. When someone like me gets called to do corporate risk, that means that a complex situation has occurred in the workplace, outside the workplace. I'll say publicly, the unfortunate death of George Floyd and the pandemic really impacted the nation, impacted me as a psychologist. And so whenever complex situations take place, they impact the employee. So my forte is basically in being able to assist the employee, the spouse, or the partner. Sometimes it's the partner. Sometimes it's the college-age kid, the high school kid, the child, the baby, the infant, and someone who hasn't given birth yet. So that is basically my expertise, is that I can basically work with anything that's ever happened. Under any circumstances, and I'd say what brought me to where I am, that I think comes to full circle, my father's, and I'm probably a great problem solver. And I'm very pro-veteran for that aspect, because I think I mentioned before that when you, back in the day when you travel abroad, resources were very different than they are now. So I'm a very big supporter of veterans, small business. In my corporate risk, there are small businesses that did call, and I'd say asking for help. Why I'm here, the resilience is being able to ask for help. Always ask for help. I'll say that I'm just trying to think of an example to tell that I think one of the biggest things of asking for help is I think it shows how strong you are. How strong that I am is that how I work with members or employees or friends is I use a particular model. So I'm here as a doctor to share the model that I use for resilience. It's something that I have really, I wouldn't say I've mastered, because as a doctor in training, I was always told being a doctor is like rowing your boat every day. You row your boat every day. You also bake your bread every day. That means that you always have to be in training. So one of the things that when I learned, when you're always in training, you always have to ask for help. So I'm very big about keeping in touch. And I think one of the precursors is that even if I'm a doctor, even if the doctor here is an honor elected official or trainer, it's so important to stay connected. That is my meaning, is staying connected in providing help. So I'm here as a psychologist to give away, as a resource, what I do and how I work with patients, or not patients, or members or clients about how to take care of themselves or how to have the resilience. So as a psychologist, I have a particular theoretical model that I follow. It's called a solution-focused approach. You can Google that. It's a very popular concept on how to problem solve. So solution-focused approach is basically you focus on all the solutions, not on the problem. I have a modality that I follow is that it's 5 steps. So it's basically 5 steps in what I do, what I've done in corporate risk, Life coaching for myself, I have friends who ask for help, and I kind of go into this theoretical concept in being able to assist them. So based on a solution-focused approach, I have the first concept is problems. One of the things I do is when I have someone helping in corporate risk, they usually tell me all the problems. We have to define 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems, and then we have to figure out the next step, which is the goal. So the goal is the second step. So there's problems, goals, and you can have more than one problem. You can have more than one goal, and you have to write them out. I write everything out. I have a journal. Some of you probably have served in the military. It's best to write everything on pen and paper. And so I write everything out. The third goal is, hold on, I'm a doctor. I have this memorized. Resources. So what are the resources? So what are the resources that you have? It could be what you have, what you don't have, but basically who you can ask for help. I would say during the pandemic, when the nation shut down, the biggest resources that I faced were some of the things that you faced. You know, all the toilet paper was gone, all the sanitizer was gone. I literally got questions of, what the heck am I supposed to do? You know, what am I supposed to do? And I would just say, I'm sorry. You know, and that's part of the complex problem solving I do as corporate risk, is that when the nation was really impacted, how do we come about in building resilience? So goals, so problems, goals, resources. The fourth one is intervention. There could be more interventions. It means, how are you going to do what you're going to do? So let's say when somebody would call me, I'll say there was a disaster where in the city of Minnesota, where the protests took place. There was looting. People lost their jobs. People would tell me, they completely looted my store. I don't have a job. What do I do now? And in the midst of it, I would have to talk with an employee, say, does your employer have an employee relief fund? Can you get unemployment benefits? Can you transfer to another store? And I think some of the things is that when we see things on the news, as a corporate risk or corporate executive life coach, I have to see further behind. So when a natural disaster takes place like a hurricane, I already know what's going to take place. Someone who doesn't have PTO will be placed on leave because the bank shut down. So a lot of forecasting that I have to do. So interventions is how things are going to get done. Sometimes it means going to counseling. Sometimes it means filling out paperwork for disability. Sometimes it means giving your employee the time off. Sometimes it means calling human resources and disclosing what's going on in the workplace. And sometimes I have to help formulate what was in or out of the process of workplace policy and procedure. And then the fifth step is the next step. So there's 5 steps: problems, goals, resources, interventions, and next steps. Sometimes the next step would be when you get off the phone with me, you're going to write everything down, or you're going to write it down on the call with me, and then you're going to get off the phone and speak with your manager, or call your wife or your spouse, or you go home and go to the daycare. So in the resilience that I have, and it sounds quite theoretical, it sounds quite literal, but I think one of the things that I have that I learned, and being a daughter of a veteran, is that asking for help is important. Having a model of how to ask for help is so important. So that's where I am as a doctor. And I would like to thank Gabriella because for becoming a doctor, I basically over years declined to give interviews or presentations. So I would say congratulations, you guys got me on a good time. I tend to decline that because I think my goal is really just to be at the grassroots. That's really my calling, and I think that's something that I speak to. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Janis Edralin. You can ask me questions. I am very pro small business, pro veteran. I'm very community based, but most of my work tends to be in corporate risk. But I am very supportive to anyone in general. And so